Hello, I'm back again reading from the Journal of Emily Shore. If somehow you're new to this series of videos, I am reading aloud from the 1830s diary of a teenage girl living in the United Kingdom. And you can find my complete reading to date of the 1891 edition when the book was first published in the Emily Shore playlist on my channel page. Today we are picking up on page 277, October 11th, 1838, which was a Thursday. I found in my room, when I returned to it, two books which I had ordered before I left Bartley. Vertot's Revolutions de Suede in 2 little volumes, and Dunham's History of the Germanic Empire in 3 volumes of Lardner Cyclopedia. I looked over the latter. It seemed to be much less a history of mere events than of the constitution, laws, and manners. This, if well done, must be very interesting. October 13th, Saturday. I read an article on domestic service, which is signed H.M. I was very much interested in it. Surely it is the most absurd idea to attach the notion of favour to the mistress's performance of her part of the contract, and to teach the servant that she owes gratitude for the same. And we have an author's note here. H.M. is Harriet Martineau. Gratitude, forsooth. Why, what should we be without servants? We should be much worse off without them than they without us. The hardships to which we universally subject our servants on certain points have long been a matter of reflection in my own mind, and on some of them I had come to the same conclusion as the reviewer. But I think he a little exaggerates the jealousy and ill will existing between the two parties. At least I do not think it is universally so strong. And there are certainly instances of perfect confidence and friendliness between mistress and servant, as I know very well. And so evidently she didn't know that H.M. was in fact a woman, was Harriet Martineau. October 14th, Sunday. I read Knox's essay on the opinion of the Church of England respecting baptism. I wish, if possible, to be able to form some opinion respecting this most difficult subject, and I shall read whatever comes in my way relating to it. I see that Papa does not like discussing the matter, so I shall think it over to myself. As yet, I confess, I cannot see more in the ceremony than a sign of the infant's being admitted into the outward and visible Church of Christ. For what is meant by the regeneration at baptism by those who suppose, as John Knox does, that the child is spiritually regenerated, I suppose the new birth spoken of in John 3. But then, does this not necessitate the new birth taking place twice in that immense majority of cases in which the individual grows to years of discretion without any trace of the Christian principle supposed to be implanted at baptism? For in all these cases, a complete and entire change must take place in the heart before the individual can be changed. Now this I take to be the new birth. If it is not, if baptism be the new birth, why, then all have been born again, and what is the use of the very strong impressions to imply we must be born again in order to be saved? And is there no term in the Scripture to express the great necessary change from sinfulness to holiness in after years? And so that's interesting that she's wondering, what is this? What happens when you're baptized? Because often when I think of debates around baptism, of course, I'm coming from a very, North American perspective where you have lots of denominations, and with baptism, for the most part, in Christian churches, it's the debate between baptism as a child, as a baby, and baptism later in life, and as an adult, the difference between the parents making that choice for the child and the person making that choice as an adult. But yeah, that's interesting that she's more concerned with spiritual regeneration for the infant and this idea of new birth. And I suppose it has something to do with her ill health that she starts to think about these things, about when a person is really, really saved and really is receiving that new birth. October 23rd, Tuesday. Our thoughts are now tuned more seriously than ever to emigration. Papa really wishes, if he can manage, to raise the money to go out next year. And I was about to ask, go out where? Well, the next entry is going to give us our answer. October 30th, Tuesday. Still Australia. Australia. Nothing but Australia. Nothing else engrosses our thoughts from morning till night. Our plans and prospects there are the constant subject of discussion. The only difficulty is the want of money, and this we hope to find means to raise. But oh, it will almost break my heart to leave England, to leave my native country and all my friends forever. It is dreadful. But I know too well that it must be, and that objecting is equally absurd and wrong. And when she says it must be, I do wonder if that has something to do with perhaps they think Australia is going to be better for her health. Perhaps they have other motives for going. Perhaps he'll explain eventually. But Australia, October 31st, Wednesday. I then read several lines of Russian sovereigns. Being determined to discover some book where I might find the missing links in my chart of chronology, I examined every work I thought would help me, and at last, to my great joy, found in one of the companions to the almanac a complete table of Russian czars. I am very glad I did not find it till I had gone through all the useful toil of reading, comparing, and examining, which is far enough from labour lost. November 2nd, Friday. Herodotus, history, and chronology are at present my only studies, and with needlework almost my only occupations. This sort of health deprives me of all energy and all strength, and I can study nothing fatiguing. I am longing to read Nichols' astronomological book, which Mrs. Duckworth has lent me, but do not feel able. I wonder at myself. I am such a different creature from what I was 3 years ago. Since then I have lost the blessing of health. Now I believe forever. November 4th, Sunday. The Edward Twopennies come tomorrow for a few days. Then immediately come Arthur and Mary Ann. Then shall Mary come, or I shall never see her more. November 6th, Tuesday. I have just heard it, but I know nothing more yet. The difficulties are found to be too great, and we cannot go to Australia. I have now heard of another plan suggested by Edward. He proposes to go out to Madeira. The climate would, in all likelihood, restore Papa's health, which is breaking fast. Living must be much cheaper there, and Papa would take 2 little boys as pupils. Probably there would be in Madeira an ample field for a tutor like Papa. Papa might also engage there in some literary work, which would just suit his taste and perhaps be very successful. So we're hearing that it's not only Emily's health, but her father's health that is failing. And perhaps they are finding their current home at Bartley Lodge, and in England in general, I guess, too expensive for them to continue living in, especially if her father is in failing health and him as the breadwinner for the family. November 7th, Wednesday. Journalizing has lost its interest with me. I am dreary, dispirited, and ill. The only occupation I pursue with any interest is that of increasing my knowledge of chronology. I have in the last few days learnt perfectly 100 dates. November 8th, Thursday. I began Nichols' book on the solar system. November 14, Wednesday. I meantime was up in the clouds, aye, and beyond them amongst the fixed stars and the most distant nebula the telescope has discovered. I was beginning Nichols' Architectures of the Heavens, and could not put it down till I had read nearly a third of the book. Astonishment, delight, admiration almost overpowered my imagination and thoughts. If I enjoyed the other book, I devoured this. November 16, Friday. I devoured all the rest of Nichols' Architecture of the Heavens, and laid it down with feelings of astonishment and delight, which I cannot describe. What wonderful views does astronomy give us of the immense extent, variety, and harmony of creation, and above all of the infinite mind of its creator. Can any astronomer be an atheist? It is not possible. I have no words to express the intense eagerness with which I followed step after step the demonstration of each amazing truth, and saw the beautiful, and I can use no other epithet, ingenuity with which Herschel and Laplace have discovered proofs of their wondrous theories. November 18th, Sunday. A letter from Mr. Astle. relieves one anxiety by announcing that he can actually give Richard his writership, and he must be examined in January. It is a Bengal writership. And I think we're going to leave it at that for today because the next entry is a little long. So we are here in mid-November of 1838 with their plans to go to Australia evidently crushed. And we will return next time on page 281 with the entry for November the 22nd, 1838.